Hello and welcome back to Port Elizabeth, the beautiful city. This is part 6. Recorded in July, I photographed these in July 2014, which is some 6 years ago. And actually, coincidentally, I was out there at Schoenmakers yesterday, which was the 15th of May 2022. And I'm happy to report that the vandalism you can see in the paving there has actually been restored. There were 2 plaques giving the history of this cannon, and they've been replaced. So if you go there today, you can actually read up about this. I'm just going to start here because on the 13th of July we went there, and it's the Schoenmakers Sardinian Bay Nature Reserve, features the Sacramento Trail. Now, the trail is named for the Portuguese galleon Sacramento, which founded on the 30th of June 1647. So that's before Europeans settled at all in South Africa. The first settlement was in 1652. However, the Portuguese were already ensconced in Portuguese East Africa, which is the modern-day Mozambique. So these poor sailors, or the survivors of this thing, managed to hike all the way to Lorenzo Marques, as Maputo was then called. I don't know how many thousand Ks that is and how long it took, but anyway. So this, it says here that they had 60 cannon that were salvaged here. Brass cannon made in India. It says here that of the 72 survivors, only 9 made it alive to Delagoa Bay, which was 1,400 Ks. I've actually used quite a few of these images on the first YouTube video I ever made, which was just a sequence of photographs accompanied by music, which my son Doug made for me back in the day. So this is the cannon pointing in the direction of roughly where the Sacramento sank. And you can still find, if you go at very low tide, there are expeditions or little outings that are organized to go and see the anchor of this ship protrudes somewhat out of the seabed just offshore. And at very low tide, they take people out. You can walk out and have a look at this thing. So this is the magnificent walk. Let's just try and avoid that sun reflection behind there. It's a lovely walk from Schoenmakers Corp through this indigenous foliage, and then you get down. We'll head down towards the actual rocky seafront or shoreline, where you'll see the inevitable fishermen there. And that's looking back towards Port Elizabeth, which is to the east of this. So it's easy to skim over. Before we get down there, let's just take a look. So all these sort of striations of rock and pools, and now a lot of these pools are actually freshwater because the water seeps down from the dunes into the inland of this stretch. So it was another remarkable day. I still only had a cheap Nokia little cell phone, and I hadn't intended photographing at all, but because my wife was walking with her friend, and I decided, well, because the weather was so perfect, the tide was out, I would just amble among the rocks and see what I could come up with. And, it was just an ongoing, like a mobile land. I don't know, it's just, for me, it was like sculpture, natural sculpture. And then, obviously, between the rocks, you have these beautiful little pools. But the rocks, I mean, look at this. This could be a Henry Moore. And then including the lichen on top, which just adds to it. That almost looks like it's, been sculpted by some abstract sculptor. It's just an unending exhibition. Whichever angle way you pointed the camera, you just got something fresh, a new composition, a new take on what looks quite ordinary from a distance, but once you're in amongst these rocks, they're just beautiful. I mean, texture, look at that. To me, that foreground shape looks like a bit of a dolphin, sort of mouth open, leaping into the sky. I always find something in these images, some sort of figurative reference. Unfortunately, the odd shadow does fall, but that's because the sun, midwinter, the sun was very low in the northwest, or just in the north. And obviously now looking out over the rocks, you've got that beautiful sea just churning, waves churning away. I love this kind of sandwich of rocks there. Wouldn't like to bite into that. And in the distance where that sand dune is in the top middle, that would be Sardinia Bay. There's a lovely stretch of swimming beach there. Not too safe, but a lovely beach all the same. A couple of birds flying past. There could be oyster catchers, black oyster catchers, or African oyster catchers. And there's that damn photographer photobombing my picture again. And here we sort of delve into some rock pools for a while. I mean, how's that for an abstract? That could be an aerial view of some lush forested valley. Another fly past. And another sort of thing that could have come out of an Egyptian tomb with its lines. These little barnacles crawling about the base there. and another dolphin leaping up. There's a real decorative hedge or something. And then everything changes and it's like these just loose rocks. And then tightly clustered rocks. And the markings of movement there in the sand, underwater. And that's looking back towards Schoenmaker's Kop. I like this one, this perspective, you know, you go from this detail in the foreground through all those lines of rock and then the nice hills in the background. And the color here, the reddish brown, is kind of almost like gold. So you can go from a focus of that, which is a totally abstract thing, to put it in perspective with the sea behind it, and then it's a different picture. As I go through these, I realize that we only used a fraction of them for that first YouTube video. There's a lot here. Look at that one on the right. It looks like a beautiful pillow or cushion. In fact, imagine that design on a cushion. They say that good design should emerge actually from some source in nature. And I could vouch for that. These images show that just how much nature can offer. Totally abstract, yet so realistic, so real. I think this Nokia camera, I forget, I've no idea what generation or anything, but it was probably the first time I'd ever had a camera that was a phone with a camera. And I believe it actually was known for being a good phone camera. So certainly helped me produce some quite great pictures. I mean, the detail and it doesn't lose much if you blow it up to this size. So it doesn't pixelate really. There's that shadow man again. I mean, it's just an ever-changing view. Again, here you've got the lovely foreground detail and then the hills just suggested behind. I mean, that's actually incredible photography thanks to just the camera. I just simply pointed it in the right direction. And here's some detail in this pond, little pool, rock pool. Again, yeah, just Now we come into the end and you'll see that row of rocks seen from the seaward side. So when you're walking, you walk beyond that, and we're going to, here it is. So we end here. I mean, we don't end, but this is one of the highlights, is these, look at these rocks. I mean, it's just incredible what nature has concocted over millions of years, probably. Such intricate sculpting. And these three I see as like Martians or some aliens chatting in immortality sort of thing. I think I got it at such a nice time of day. The sun just creating the shadows to really give these things form. The form is so well expressed. And that's actually them from the other side, and it's not as crisp. And now we're heading back up. And I always turn around and look at from whence I have come, because then now the shadow is there, unfortunately, and we end back with that cannon. My wife, Robin, and Doug, who helped create that first YouTube video, and which gave me a YouTube channel, which I had to work out how to use, and I did. So Doug was at varsity at this point, but always very helpful. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Cheers.